Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So today I'm talking about change at speed. Can we change fast in organisations? Is that a myth, or can that be a reality? And can we create fast change? One of the things I'll start off with saying is that we learnt in COVID-19 it was really necessary to change fast, and that some organisations were set up better to respond to the pandemic and the requirements there. They could make faster decisions around their people, moving to remote working 100% to continue to have their organisation function. Obviously, there was a lot of policy discussion which needed to happen regarding the vaccination aspect that I won't get into too deeply. But what COVID-19 showed us was absolutely we can change fast. It is possible. When there is a burning bridge, when there is urgency, when there is a need to. Some organisations dropped the ball, and that's okay. They've learned from that, and it comes across as part of these circumstances that people probably never thought something like that would ever happen in an organisation. And so what it taught us of those organisations who are change savvy would have realised that you have to be prepared for anything, and that it's more about how you can enable the cross-functional teams to come together, to have discussions, to work through the different options, to make decisions, to provide as much clarity as possible in such heightened uncertainty, and then to be able to execute. One of the things I observed within my own experience of that was that the bringing together of cross-functional teams was easier if there has been really strong projects or rollouts that have happened with those teams in the first place, that it was similar in nature. And this is one of the benefits of change and the change management discipline being in organisations, is that if you've rolled out certain changes, you can draw threads of familiarity from projects that you've rolled out in the past and take a different, same but different approach to it, where you can get great outcomes through really acknowledging those threads of familiarity around different aspects of the program. And that's why talent in an organisation is such a rich resource for not just change, but for anything when it comes to programs, because you had the history there, it was able to be leveraged, there were similar projects and challenges that had happened before, and so therefore it made it easier in some ways to bring the right people around the table, because all of the implications and flow-on implications had been mapped out around people's access, for example, the technology aspects and how that needs to be enabled and well managed when it comes to step changing really fast to remote working, and then how to gradually potentially move to the hybrid way of working post COVID-19 pandemic, or back to frontline and in the office operations. So that shows potential. So we have a tangible example of the need to evolve. And sometimes in some of the different organisations and even small companies and small businesses, I remember highlighting around a local gin company changing its manufacturing principles and generating hand sanitizer, moving to that for their model. I do believe, though, that alcohol consumption full stop actually went up during COVID-19. However, it's just around this flexibility and the ability to evolve, change your business model, to adapt, and then being able to maintain business from there. So it is absolutely possible. One of the things when you think about the speed of change there, then, is considering what are the things that are slowing down your ability to change within your organisation to move forward. And I'll want to cover off some of the key themes that we see time and time again when it comes to change, whether it be business as usual change, whether it be project change, etc. And some of the key barriers to speed. Now, I know that a lot of people will say, oh, we need to slow down. We do things too fast. I don't know many organisations that do roll out things fast apart from tech companies. And I think a lot of the cultural learnings from tech companies should be adopted into different service environments and other organisations, and some of their techniques leveraged. Because even from an agile and teaming and scrum perspective, there are just great levers that have been focused on in that discipline. Doesn't mean you say, okay, well, let's get everyone trained in agile. Let's have our business rhythms in a scrum method and a release train method, because that may not suit your organisation at all. There's a reason why that type of framework has actually been set up for tech, because it's appropriate for that environment, but it's not always necessary. So let's go through some of the barriers to speed that your organisation and your company, regardless of its size, may be experiencing. The one is the understanding your change ecosystem. And so if you don't have communication channels set up effectively, if you don't have strong leaders who communicate well, if you don't have the regular rhythms of engagement. So if you've got basically one road to all of those teams, you want to think about how you're layering your communication, how you consciously do that, and how you're looking at your ecosystem to have those channels set up. Now, your change ecosystem, the communication element's just one of them. If your strategy isn't aligned, if it's not clear, if there's no vision and that hasn't been communicated and or understood by each of your leadership levels, that is absolutely going to hamper your ability to speed up change and deliver change in your organisation. The concept of understanding the levers for change, for fast change, and we've been unpacking these from my 20 odd years of experience, the themes in the research papers around the effectiveness of change in organisations. And there are certain levers in change which allow it to be sped up. Leadership buy-in, resourcing, effective resourcing, and a resourcing engagement that's appropriate to the size of the change. Your messaging, and whether your messaging gains momentum, whether it's accurate, whether it's engaging. And it's worth mentioning that resourcing isn't just the people, it's the budget. And the truth of it is that you can roll out change at speed and fast with minimal cost to an organisation. And I've been in the situation where I've had a budget that I could spend, like a quite significant one, and I've also had budgets where they've been so minimal you're basically leveraging whatever resources you have internally and then potentially spending a little bit of money just on some morning teas, etc. And the success that you can achieve with little budget is, and with leveraging your own creativity, like the budget aspect is not a barrier to being able to deploy change fast and successfully. Then we also have scope. That lever is so important when it comes to change, managing the scope and the what you are delivering and being very clear on that. Roles and responsibilities comes off your scope management as well. And then the time frame to be able to implement can sometimes be hampered a little bit because of scope management and the requirement or the assumption that you're delivering something that you're not. So it's really important, and scope obviously relates to messaging. So all of these different levers are actually interconnected and should be seen as connected. So therefore a change in one more than likely absolutely will make changes in other areas as well. Then the other lever is around impact. Impact closely connected to scope, and the impact sizing is really important around messaging and the approach there, so you can see some of those tangible relationships happening. So 5 levers, really, we're talking about 5 areas that are going to achieve a degree of success when it comes to change. When you're looking at fast change, your resourcing, your team complement, if you have people who have worked together before, working together, they're cohesive, they know their stuff, if they've delivered a similar change before, it makes it very easy for them to connect in, know the plan, let's go. And certainly I had this when working on some policy changes with the same people around the table, from a learning perspective, from a communication perspective, from a compliance perspective. It made it so easy because we'd done the hard yards and had to deliver change before. So when there was another policy change and someone new came into the fray around a change in a policy, then we could guide them, advise them. We knew what we needed to do to implement and what we didn't need to do. And so it made it easy to make change at speed and achieve, once again, a degree of success. And these are the things that really matter when you're looking at fast change. So have a consideration currently about what might be holding up your project and program. Decision making can be one of those key areas that sits within that leadership realm, which can kill the speed that you can move forward with when it comes to change. When it comes to being able to help the decision making and move it forward, because speed's about momentum, speed is about being able to get change out there, realized, embedded as fast as possible. If you're finding that the decision makers are holding things up, there can be one of 2 things really in relation to that. One is that the decision makers just simply not comfortable around decision making. They don't feel like they can take ownership of that decision, or they might be feeling they don't have enough information to make an informed decision, so that can slow things down. And so it's important from your perspective to provide the decision maker with enough information so they can feel informed and move forward. The other area, which is entirely out of your control if you're trying to implement change at speed, is that there might be, what I say, other things going on that you don't know about. And sometimes that happens in the upper echelons of organisations. There could be big changes happening, and I've had it a couple of times in my career where things have really slowed up, where as a project program we've been really ready to implement the change, but there's just been look, it has to hold for now. You'll find out why soon, but you really, we're not going to move this forward for now, which can be really disappointing, especially if you've got a lot of effort, time and effort, team cohesion, momentum on your side. But that's just life. And it's important to move through that process of frustration that will be inevitable when something like that happens, so that you can move on to the next change or sit and figure out with your leader around if there's something that can be delivered. But when you're looking at speed and speed of change, just know decision making is sometimes that biggest hurdle that you actually cannot move. You can affect it, you can help influence it, but it might be entirely out of your control because it will sit within the organisation's ecosystem to resolve. So there's some key levers around that aspect around being able to deliver fast change. And I talk about success in degrees, and I think this is something that all change practitioners understand over time. You never get the perfect formula. You never achieve the 100% in all areas. However, you strive for that. However, the reality is that some areas might lack a little bit for all sorts of reasons. For example, you're halfway through the change and all of a sudden there's a change in leadership, or there's an org structure change. So these are things that you don't have control over. That means you might be heading towards a really great success, and it starts to lose a bit of momentum through its delivery or enthusiasm because something else comes up that's starting to take priority. it's not all on your shoulders as someone who's introducing the change. And if you're a technical expert introducing change into other areas and your change doesn't get as much airtime because of another priority that arises within that business area, that's okay. You accept it. You deliver it the best to your ability, and then you achieve a certain degree of success. The final aspect around change at speed is that you learn and you adapt all the way through the process. And that has a lot to do with how you're approaching the change. It is one of the biggest levers you actually have, is about how you are showing up in relation to that change to be able to move it through at speed. I am very much action oriented. You might have realized that through listening to these podcasts when I'm talking about different tactics that you can take. I am very much delivery with quality and engagement. And so that everyone has as good a change journey as they can through this process. And that is something for you to consider and to reflect upon, even if you're a technical expert delivering change to other areas, is how am I going to show up? How do I want people to remember this change? How do I want them to experience it? And who do I need to be to create that experience when it comes to this change? Because change at speed does not need to be a rush, a whirlwind, a Tassie Devil moment, if you're familiar with those cartoons. It's actually about how you can pace change at speed, which is almost an oxymoron. However, it is how it works the best. You can change at speed with poise. I hope this has helped. I hope this has provided you with some tangible things to look at and reflect upon if you are implementing change within your organisation. And I hope this has helped. I hope this has allowed you to reflect upon some of the areas of your current change if you're implementing change in your organisation and you need to do it at speed and you need to do it fast. Stay in touch so that we can keep you informed around tools. We have free tools, free resources that sit on our site as well for you to use. The reason why we do that is because we know that change matters, because your people matter. Have a great day.